The latest news regarding legendary New York thrash metal band Nuclear Assault is that they have officially disbanded. It's not just a break or a hiatus. After breaking up and reuniting several times throughout their career, Nuclear Assault finally decided to permanently end their musical journey on November 20th, 2022. They announced the breakup in a pretty dramatic way on social media. It started with a gravestone photo. The band posted a photo of a tombstone on their official Facebook page. Then came the account deletion. Right after that photo went up, their official Facebook page was deleted or disabled entirely, followed by an Instagram bio change. On their official Instagram profile, they changed the bio to a very clear statement. Nuclear Assault, John Connelly, Dan Lilker, Erik Burke, Drew Burke 1985 to 2022. That date format, 1985 to 2022, was the absolute sign that the band was dead and done. Before the breakup announcement in November, Nuclear Assault played their final live show in front of a crowd on September 3, 2022. This unofficial farewell show took place at UK Deathfest, held at the Electric Ballroom in London, England. After that show, they didn't book any more tours or concerts. Even though there was no formal press conference laying out the specific reason for the 2022 breakup, iconic bassist Dan Lilker had been hinting that the band would end for years before 2022, including age and careers outside of music. Dan Lilker has explained that the band members now have lives, full-time jobs, and careers outside of music that they couldn't just walk away from. Back in 2014 to 2015, they had actually planned a farewell tour called Final Assault to celebrate the band's 30th anniversary, along with releasing the Pounder EP 2015. But because of their love for the fans, they still played sporadic shows at a few major festivals mostly in the US and South America before finally running out of energy and deciding to call it quits for good in 2022. As of today, there is no activity from Nuclear Assault whatsoever. John Connelly and Dan Lilker have closed the book on the thrash metal band known for their environmental themes and social criticism. They leave behind a legacy of hugely influential classic albums in crossover thrash history, like Game Over, 1986, Survive, 1988, and Handle with Care, 1989. Beyond the formal timeline you see on the surface, there are some serious and deeper facts, plus behind-the-scenes details that the public rarely knows about Nuclear Assault's breakup. This information is valid and comes from bassist Dan Lilker's biography, Perpetual Conversion, as well as various interviews within the underground community. Here are some key facts behind the band's permanent end. 1. Glenn Evans' chronic health issues, the main trigger. A lot of people assume the band broke up purely due to burnout or age. But the biggest reason Nuclear Assault couldn't keep going was the health of original drummer Glenn Evans. Glenn developed severe wrist issues from decades of playing thrash metal drums at such an intense level. That condition was made worse by other physical injuries, and it left him unable to play at the fast tempos, blast beats, or double bass that defined Nuclear Assault's sound. At several of their last shows between 2019 to 2022, Glenn was even replaced by Drew Burke because he literally couldn't handle the pain anymore. Without Glenn's drumming foundation, the other members felt like the band had lost half its soul. 2. Extreme internal political polarization. Something that rarely gets covered in mainstream media is the growing ideological divide between the two founding members, John Connelly, vocals and guitar, and Dan Lilker, bass. Nuclear Assault made their name in the 80s with lyrics that leaned hard left or progressive, calling out environmental destruction in songs like Critical Mass, anti-war messages, and animal rights. They even worked with PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. But as he got older, John Connelly's political views shifted dramatically. He became a right-wing conservative and a supporter of the U.S. Republican Party. Meanwhile, Dan Lilker and the other members stuck to the hardcore and punk community principles of freedom, which tend to be liberal and anarchist. That huge contrast in worldviews was acknowledged internally as something that made the vibe on the tour bus and in the rehearsal room not feel the same anymore. 3. John Connelly's day job as a high school teacher. Unlike other metal musicians who kept living on the road, lead vocalist John Connelly had long had a stable, normal life. He worked as a public high school teacher in the New York area. That job demands a very strict time commitment. Connelly couldn't just walk out on his students to go on month-long tours through Europe or South America. That logistical hurdle meant nuclear assault could only take festival gigs on weekends or during school breaks. As they got older, splitting their focus between teaching kids and screaming on a thrash metal stage just didn't feel efficient anymore. 4. Dan Lilker's decision to retire from long tours. Dan Lilker is one of the busiest musicians in the extreme metal scene. He's played in Anthrax, SOD, Brutal Truth, Nuclear Assault, and Blurring. But as he approached his 60s, Lilker openly stated in his memoir that he was experiencing massive physical burnout from touring. He was tired of sleeping on cramped tour buses, waiting for hours in airports, and hauling heavy gear. Lilker decided that nuclear assault should be ended with dignity instead of forcing it to keep going with half-assed energy. For Lilker, shutting down nuclear assault was the first step toward simplifying his life in his later years.